all, Bulls Nation, and welcome in to the CHGO Bulls podcast, presented to you by PointsBet. Don't forget that promo code CHGO when signing up your PointsBet account, and that'll help you live your bet life like we all do. What's going on, everybody, and welcome in. I'm Peck, joined by, as always, my guy Big Dave, who you can follow on Twitter at BAWL Sports. Will the Thrill is at Won't Gottlieb on Twitter. And joining us in studio, currently writing and covering the NBA for Bleacher Report, former member of the Bulls beat for The Athletic back in the day, the Three Alphas saga, and one of the OG hosts of the Locked On Bulls podcast. Give it up for Sean Highkin, everybody!
Great to be here with you guys. This is awesome. This is actually kind of a full circle moment for me because Will and I used to work together at The Athletic, and then Cody NBR, yes, and then Cody and I used to co-host Locked On Bulls before you two took it over and ran
Jordan.
with it. They took it to way greater heights than we ever did.
we ran it into the ocean. Like we would never.
Well, it worked out okay because we're here now.
This is true.
And the reason that Sean's in town is because he is attending the wedding of his former Locked On co-host and Bulls reporter for 670, Cody Westerland. So shout out to Cody and congrats to him.
Shout out, man. That should be fun, man. Well, how come we didn't get the invite to the wedding is my question.
I don't know. You'd have to ask Cody, but this was...
We demand answers.
We want it now.
But yeah, Will and I were, back when it was us at The Athletic, it was us and then also Stefan No, who's at Sporting News now, also doing great stuff. We used to call ourselves the Three Alphas, and like our group chat was also called the Three Alphas because that was the year. We might have to retire that now because like I don't know if you guys seen this Rondo stuff. It's not good.
Not the greatest.
So, I suggest.
What do you mean, playoff Rondo? You mean if he doesn't break his thumb, the Bulls beat Boston Rondo?
We're retiring playoff Rondo from the agenda.
I see. I see.
We're now the five Nwabas.
The five Nwabas. That's the.
Oh my God!
There were five Nwabas out there before there were five Javantes out there. I don't know if you know this.
That is very true. Or five Carusos.
I'm old enough to remember that.
I'm old enough to remember David Nwaba getting waived by the Lakers, picked up by the Bulls, and then all the Lakers fans just being like up in arms, like I can't believe we let David Nwaba go. And then
5 years later,
5 years later, is he on a team?
No,
Houston.
5 years later, that same thing happened with Alex Caruso.
Yeah,
that's true, man.
Nwaba got picked up by somebody. Wasn't he with
Houston.
Cleveland for a while?
He was on
Cleveland. I think he was on Cleveland.
There were some Bulls fans who were like, "We just cut the next Jimmy Butler."
Oh my God, they were losing their minds.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you're in a rebuilding years, and I'm kind of dealing with this right now with the team that I cover in Portland, where everybody in Portland is all about Trendon Watford, who was a kid that they had in training camp and on a two-way contract. They ended up converting his contract to a full contract, and he's the future now. Like, even though, I mean, is he showed some stuff in the first year, but like, is he like a long-term piece to build around? Probably not, but he's like, since he's the new guy, and when you're rebuilding, you need anything to kind of hold on to. So I can understand where the David Nwaba stuff was coming from. I was definitely like the chairman of Paul Zipser club back in the day.
Oh my goodness!
Who we're high on, I believe, was the quote.
Some have said that.
It's been a thing.
What up, Gar?
Now you mentioned you covering Portland from the Trail Blazers. So first question for me is, what was your reaction when you heard that the coach was bringing in the bald-headed menace in Mr. Boylen to come help with the defense on the Portland Trail Blazers?
You're talking about when Terry Stotts brought him into camp.
That is absolutely correct.
You're holding the neuralizer in your lap, Dave, and yet you still threw that name out there.
I had to say it just so he might not know the name. That was strictly so he could know who I'm speaking of, and now I will neuralize myself.
Neuralize yourself.
Please continue that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, so what's really funny about that whole situation is with I guess I didn't realize that his name on this show was like a Voldemort situation.
Oh yeah,
yes, very much.
He who must not be named.
But here's the thing, because my last 2 years on the beat were the first two Hoiberg years when they brought him in, and he had
Shout
been
out to Fred, man.
Yeah, Fred's
the nicest guy.
Love Fred, but he's. Like, they brought him in from San Antonio. He had been on Pop's staff, and he was just kind of brought in as like a lead, defensive assistant. I actually talked to him for a couple of stories during my year when I was at The Athletic. I talked to Jim about like different schematic stuff, and where like he would maybe give more insight than Fred would, because Fred, for media purposes, never really said anything.
Right.
I just found Jim totally normal and easy to talk to, and just kind of like a cool guy. And when they fired Fred and brought him and elevated him to the head coach, I kind of thought, this could actually work. This could be like when the Pacers fired Jim O'Brien and elevated Frank Vogel, and then they went on that run. And then pretty immediately, like within the first week, it was like, no, this guy's actually a lunatic.
Player mutiny within what, like 3 days?
Like a few
within
days.
3 days, there was like the Celtics blowout followed by like the practice the next day, and a double lose, and
couldn't double lose.
The original leadership committee.
The original leadership committee.
Which, by the way, is working out for the Mavs.
Is it?
They had the leadership council. Hey, they're like...
Yeah, but the head of their council
is Luka, so that helps.
Yeah. that definitely helps.
I think the president of ours was Robin Lopez, which, great guy.
Shout out, but no.
So we're so glad you're here, Joe. We've got plenty to talk about. You mentioned the Blazers. We are going to talk about them and this recent rumor that popped up about Zach LaVine. Then we'll also kind of talk about our old pal Jimmy from the 3 Alphas years, who went off in Game 1 of the East Finals last night. And then we will wrap things up taking a look at the West Finals, which start tonight. Oh my gosh. Are you putting a picture of a punch clock up there, Joey? Come on.
You guys should do another segment for one of your Friday shows as like some sort of like punch in, punch out with a take or something.
Oh, dear God.
Oh, no, God, no. I can't do that.
Love that.
No,
we're doing that.
There will be no punch clocks.
Friday.
There will be no punch clocks on this show.
It's happening.
God, no.
It's happening.
Joey probably looked at it because he's probably never seen one. Joey's probably never seen a punch clock before. Is this true?
I mean...
See, I told you. Yeah, I told you.
May have seen one, has definitely never used one.
Definitely
like
never. No.
Summer jobs. I was using actual old-timey punch clocks like that all the time, my teenage in my early 20s.
He was doing it. Man.
I don't think I've ever used a manual one. When I was in college, I had a food service job on campus where it was like you scan your ID card, your student ID card, and it was like a computer. But it was like a computer digital thing. It wasn't like the old-school manual one with like paper cards and stuff on it.
Yeah, true indeed.
That just means, but I guess that just means I don't have as pure of spirit and soul as Jim Boylen.
Seems fun? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Seems fun to you? Oh man, no.
We gotta prepare that child for the road. That's what we gotta do.
For real, man. Seriously.
All right. So about this, and in case you guys missed this, Joey, do you have that quote from the Windhorse Hoop Collective to throw up there? So this was from last week, where Wendy said about Zach and his situation. I've talked to league executives when they saw what LaVine said, meaning at his exit interview at the end of the season, and what they see the Blazers can do. That scenario has popped up, meaning the Blazers could be a team that theoretically frees up enough money to throw something close to a max offer at Zach and maybe pair him with Dame. And Sean, at lunch just now when we were sitting down, shout out to Parlor Pizza down the street, you were saying that like there is a certain element of truth to what the Blazers can do to free up money if they want to go after a player like Zach, but it's mostly about the fact that maybe Wendy is connecting some dots because there is a new regime in power in Portland, and that regime has made it clear we're not trying to fully tear down and rebuild. We want to bring in other new, fresh talent to pair with Dame. You want to expand upon that?
Well, that is true that is what their plan is, that they, Dame is not, as much as this has been a thing that's been out there and people speculated about it, Dame, as of right now, is not looking to get traded from Portland. He's not leaving. He's happy there. He's about to get paid. He won the power struggle against Neil Olshey, the former general manager. They're pretty committed to bringing in, veterans and other, guys that he can win with and try to kind of salvage the end of his prime. Mm-hmm. If they really, really wanted to, if they just were like, we want Zach LaVine, that is our guy, we will do whatever we have to do to get him, they could free up enough cap space to get him. They could let Anthony Simons walk, who's a restricted free agent and is somebody that they drafted and developed, and they're very high on. He had a kind of a breakout year this year. Yeah. They could let Yusuf Nurkic, their starting center, walk in free agency and free up some money. They could waive Josh Hart, who was the centerpiece of the C.J. McCollum trade, who has a non-guaranteed deal next year. They could do that if they really wanted to, but it's very much like I don't see them wanting to let all those guys go and become a cap space team. And I also just don't think Zach is somebody that they're really looking at because they kind of have other needs. Their defense was one of the worst in the league last year. They kind of need bigger wings and more front court players. Like Jeremy Grant is somebody that we've heard them kind of tied to for a while. I think if Toronto ever decided they had a logjam on the wing, I think OG Anunoby is somebody they would be interested in. Maybe looking more at like a Miles Turner type of, that type of guy. This situation going on with DeAndre Ayton, Phoenix is kind of interesting. Yeah. If they are going to, carve out the money in the cap space and, trade pieces or whatever to make a big move, I think that somebody like that and somebody more in that type of player is more what they would be looking at than bringing in somebody like Zach LaVine to basically be the new CJ McCollum when they basically just had the Dame and CJ thing for 8 years and it topped out at making the conference finals once. It was mostly a second round team. So this feels to me like Clutch, which obviously is Zach's agency, and also, by the way, is Yusuf Nurkic's agency and Chauncey Billups' agency, and is one of the agencies that I think has a lot of pull within the Blazers organization now that their former GM is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a lot of this is Clutch trying to throw other teams out there just to make the Bulls realize, hey, look, if you don't give him that full 5-year max, we could be going and looking around on other places. I think that's all this really is, though.
It's nice to hear that from someone who's very much in the know on the Portland side of things. Because we were sitting here a week ago and trying to tell Bulls fans, like, this is Clutch. This is Clutch. Just letting the Bulls know that Zach could have some options out there. Yeah. So you best be giving him that max contract.
That's right.
I'm glad that that's the way that you interpreted all of that as well, as opposed to the Blazers having like genuine interest. Like, we're not only are we trying to free up money, but we are targeting Zach LaVine with that money. That always seemed just a bit far-fetched to me.
Yeah, and it didn't make sense that way, money-wise or basketball-wise. You know, like you were saying, like, I don't think Zach wants to leave a place right now in Chicago, the market he's in Chicago and things like that, to go to Portland to be another number 2 guy. You know what I'm saying? I always thought that if he left, he won't. But I always thought that if he did or something like that, it would be to play with someone extra elite or a team that's already built to, like, win a championship or something like that. Like, if he's going to go and be that number 2 kind of person like that. So, yeah, I don't see it happening. I just see him staying here in Chicago. And we couldn't wait to have you on specifically for this question because we knew you would put some of those fears to bed for some of these Bulls fans out here.
I'm glad that there was a reason you guys wanted to have me on.
That was one of many.
One of many, sir.
You know, because NBA fans will take anything and go crazy with it. It's like that is
That's
part
the
of the
fun
fun
I totally
of the
get
NBA
it.
and the NBA offseason. Like, there's never a dull moment.
Right.
As soon as your team is out of the playoffs, you're like, all right, what crazy shit's about to go down this summer?
Start playing with the trade machine, looking at the cap space. Like,
That's what we
My favorite time of year.
You're sitting next to
Will's
someone
gonna bring it out.
who, with no shame, admits
Why
to
do you
being
think I
a
keep my
big
computer
trade
with me at all
machine guy.
times? I'm playing around on the trade machine.
He's figuring it out, man.
So, like, look at Josh in the comments here saying, as a Bulls fan, I want LaVine to resign. If he doesn't, I'll support him anywhere he goes, except the Lakers.
Okay.
So now here's, like, just recently, I think like yesterday, the day before, how many people blew up on NBA Twitter just because LeBron was answering, Q&As, quote tweeting people that he said, hey, ask me whatever. And somebody asked him about, like, all-time dunk contest participants. And he said, me, Dominique, Vince, and Zach.
Right.
And Bulls fans like, oh my God, LeBron's trying to steal this.
He's recruiting Dominique and Zach.
This just happens. I mean, obviously, it happens more with the Lakers because the Lakers have the biggest fan base in the league. But even from my end, the other night after Phoenix gets blown out by Dallas in Game 7 and all this weird stuff starts coming out with DeAndre Ayton where Monty says it's internal and then, like, James Jones, like, declines to comment on it. Dame that night liked a tweet from some fan saying, DeAndre Ayton needs to go team up with Dame. And, like,
oh, yeah,
Dame,
I saw that.
Dame liked a tweet, and then that just became, oh, well, now Dame is. And to be clear, I do think that Portland would have some interest in DeAndre Ayton, but people saw Dame liking that tweet and made that into, well, this is what he's going to do now.
Right, yeah.
So I totally get that this is just kind of how the league is now and kind of how the news cycle goes. But I believe that the Bulls, I mean, I'm sure I don't think it's going to happen on July 1st at midnight. I don't think it's going to be that quick. I think he might, just because he's never been a free agent before, I think it's possible that he will take meetings with other teams. I believe that the Bulls are going to offer him the 5-year max, and I believe that he's going to sign it.
Yeah, he's, like I said, he's been in a relationship forever. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They're on a break. He wants to go on a few dates. That's cool.
Well, also, if you're Clutch, what would you be accomplishing if you're Clutch by having Zach go out there and say, oh, yeah, I want to be back here no matter what. I'll even be willing to take a hometown discount. They're telling, I mean, Rich Paul has experience getting his guys paid, whether it be, back in the Cleveland days, JR, Tristan Thompson, he got Eric Bledsoe paid in Phoenix, like held out.
Yes, he did.
Right. This is what he does. He has his guys come out and just take a hard line and say, look, basically try to hold the team's feet to the fire. I don't know how much the Bulls' feet are going to need to be held to the fire because I think they realize, that Arturis and Eversley, that if they let Zach go, it's not like then they suddenly have $36 million to go sign somebody else. They basically, if they let him go, they basically have this year's team minus Zach. And I don't know where you're going. You can say what you want about where you're going with Zach making that much money, but where are you going with this rest of this team and not having Zach?
Yeah.
Your point about the Bulls being the team and only team to be able to offer him a 5-year max, and I saw, so after the results of the draft lottery last night, which, Will, you were there, Orlando came out the victors. Another friend of ours, pal, named C-Red Fred, was having a panic attack on Twitter last night after Orlando won the lottery, saying like, oh, man, well, now that Orlando's got the number 1 pick and, they got, Wagner Jr. or whatever, and they got our old pal Wendell, who apparently Fred misses like crazy and is crying himself to sleep without Wendell.
I didn't know this.
Oh, my God.
I didn't know
the guy
this.
playing on a team with 8 wins that has not even as good a stats as Vooch in a down year for Vooch. That's the guy we all miss terribly, and you're calling the Vooch trade a big mistake because anyway, we've been down that road.
I'm actually having dinner with C-Red Fred tonight. I've never met him in person before.
Good luck.
Flex. You never met him in person?
We've never met in person. I'm going to get together with him and also Ramina, who I've also not met.
Ramina is a treasure.
Yeah.
And her presence will make Fred's presence a little less bad.
I'm very excited.
About time, Joey.
So
About
what he pointed out and what he wanted to say,
like
a lot of
3 or
Bulls
4
fans
at
are
this
thinking
point.
about when you talk about the Bulls being able to offer Zach $50+ additional $1 million compared to any other is that well if he wants to go to Orlando to play with that young upstart team, like you're thinking about the fact that there are no state taxes down in Florida, and like so if you were to pick a team in free agency like Florida or Texas or whatever, we're like well that shaves off a lot of that 50-something million, and like I still, to me, that point is completely pointless.
Yeah, it's insane. Like you're not going to leave Chicago to go to Orlando to a rebuilding team. I don't care they got the first pick in the draft. That really doesn't matter, but I don't think he's going to leave that to go to a rebuilding
and not even
situation.
the cool Florida team.
Right, to
like,
Orlando.
I guess you can justify Miami because Miami has
Sure,
its own
Miami.
allures, whatever.
Right.
Orlando?
Yeah, I don't see it.
Ugh.
The last time a big superstar level free agent went to Orlando was in 2000 when they got Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill and almost got Tim Duncan. Like it was almost a big 3. That came extremely close to happening, but that was when Grant Hill and T-Mac, and Bulls fans who are old enough to remember that the Bulls went pretty hard after T-Mac, and then he ended up deciding to go to Orlando instead. But
Benny to the airport. Yeah, we'll never forget it.
Steve-O in the comments saying Zach knows better. I'm not worried. I think that's the approach
Steve-O.
that most Bulls fans should be taking to this right now.
Yeah.
And like you said, Sean, even if it doesn't happen, 6:01 p.m. on July 1st, even then don't necessarily panic because, as you said, this is the first time Zach's ever been an unrestricted free agent, and I think he wants to experience that.
Yeah.
Every NBA player, especially those in the upper echelon of talent who are, getting offers in the range of max contracts, want that experience. And it's completely fine with me if Zach goes out and takes some meetings and gets wined and dined before coming back to Chicago and signing the biggest contract that's put in front of him.
Zach's whole thing was, I want to be given my respect.
Yeah.
He wants to
Respect comes in the form of a max contract.
Come on with it, Will.
That's all there is here.
Well, because, and I also think, from the Bulls standpoint, it would be I understand that, there are people who have reservations about giving Zach that much money. It would be such a bad look for them to the rest of the league to have, because remember a couple of years ago, Anthony Davis, when he's asking out of New Orleans, and it's pretty obvious he's trying to go to the Lakers, but then Boston had been hoarding all these picks and stuff for years to try to go after somebody like that. And Anthony Davis's dad came out and said, we do not want to go to Boston because we saw how they did Isaiah Thomas when he dragged them to the playoffs on a bad hip, and then they just traded him.
Right.
It's true.
Zach chose to play hurt in a contract year in order to drag the Bulls to the playoffs, and he sacrificed he could have shut it down just because he wanted to protect his health and protect his money, but he didn't. And so for them to then turn around and the Bulls have just in the last year and a half started getting back some of the credibility that they never had under the old regime in terms of getting Lonzo to go there, getting DeMar to go there, getting these guys who are big names and guys that people respect to go there.
Right.
If they were to turn around and say, well, Zach, you had a career year and you played hurt in a contract year in order to help us make the playoffs for the first time in 5 years, but we're not going to give you the full max, especially after we made you go out and get an offer sheet from Sacramento when you were restricted.
Right.
That's going to be not a great look to agents, and like these guys talk to each other. They all know which teams treat each other well, like treat players well, and which ones don't. And right now, the Bulls have a lot of goodwill because DeMar is somebody that a lot of players respect, and he went there, and he seems like he's enjoying his experience there. If they mess around with Zach and either don't offer him the full max or don't, re-sign him for whatever reason, then that burns, I think, a lot of that goodwill, and they set themselves back from an off-court standpoint as well as an on-court standpoint.
And that's also why they hired Eversley. Is like that was his thing.
Correct.
He's the relationship
the player
guy.
and agent relationships.
He was their bridge to DeMar from their early Toronto days.
My favorite movie.
I hope y'all just listened to what Sean Highkin said just now, because it is very intelligent. And any of you out there freaking out in your own little crazy Bulls fan ways, in just what he just said, take a breath. Take another breath. All right, so that's the Zach stuff that we wanted to cover from Sean's perspective, because the dude is very close to what's going on over there in Portland. There that is. We also now are going to talk playoffs and our old pal Jimmy Buckets. But before we do that, I mentioned it at the top of the show. Today's episode brought to y'all by PointsBet. The best way to support CHGO is to download that PointsBet app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. If you do that right now, you're going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. What an amazing deal. But that's not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you get a free membership to CHGO, which unlocks all of our amazing web content. You can read all these awesome player-grade breakdowns that Will Gottlieb's been doing for us. I got a fresh pecking order dropping on Friday.
Trademark.
You were chatting with Adam Hogue and Nick on the Bears pod earlier today.
Flex.
Adam Hogue wrote a great column about Justin Fields that came out today.
He really did.
Y'all want to read that stuff, you're going to need a CHGO membership to do so. So sign up for PointsBet. Bingo, bango, bongo.
Oh!
That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, the free shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. And right now, it's your home for live NBA same-game parlays. For the first time ever, you could build the perfect live NBA same-game parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. You can also boost those live same-game parlays. Watch live, parlay live, boost live, all with PointsBet. An online sign-up is now available in Illinois. You can sign up, create your account from start to finish, all from your phone. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Tell them what you do, Will the Thrill.
You live your bet life.
Oh, just don't miss.
I got to say, my PointsBet pick of the week yesterday was rocking the Celtics on that money line for plus money.
Okay.
I held off. I was just giving people that as my pick of the week. I hadn't actually placed it yet. When I got word that Smart and Horford were both sitting, gave it a little switcheroo, put money on the Heat. That's how much fun
Sorry,
you have
guys.
Oh man, cello, you got a base. That's how you did it. See, when you heard what Matt said earlier, taking a breath, taking in, breathing out. You see why he's so calm, so relaxed? It's not because he got the fresh car delivered. No, it's not because he's got on this ill Bulls jacket. No, even though those are part of the reason. Yeah, he had some awesome parlor pizza with us right here. No. It's because he's got that Strava. Living that Strava life, that Strava CBD coffee, it is a game changer. And they've helped thousands of people, including this handsome gentleman over here, improve their overall wellness and quality of life. It delivers fresh, roasted specialty infused with organic broad spectrum CBD. Now, CBD is from hemp, but it don't get you high. All right? And it won't make you hungry. But it does offer real benefits that can help you. Matt, you'd be better to testify to this because you love the Strava. What has Strava done for you, sir?
Honestly, and you know me, I'm a big coffee drinker.
Yes,
I've been since I was, in my college years. 3 cups every morning.
Crazy.
Like religiously 3 cups every morning.
Straight to
sometimes I'll have a 4th cup, early afternoon. Especially if I'm feeling a little sag from lunch, if I eat a big lunch, 4th cup. And so I just started swapping out the coffee that I have been drinking with these Stravas that they gave us for free, the kind people over at Strava Coffee.
Shout out.
And I like the fact that I feel alert when I drink it and I feel caffeinated, but I don't feel caffeinated in a way where if you're sitting at your desk staring at a computer screen, your eyes are like blah, 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 blah. It's just like it's a much cleaner, sharper focus feel. And then you're also able to fall asleep at the end of the day because that CBD is there to kind of like relax you in the background the whole time.
Nice.
They also have the decaf variety, so if you want a little just a deliciousness. You want a cup, after dinner cup of coffee, but decaf plus the CBD effect. Man, I sleep like a baby.
Oh, look at him. Just relaxed and spry as ever, ladies and gentlemen. And that is all because of that Strava coffee. It's all about quality. Everything is small batch, fresh and shipped straight to your door. So, CHGO listeners, listen up. 25% off your entire purchase when you use this code CHGO25. That's 25% off your entire order at StravaCraftCoffee.com when you use that code CHGO25 at the checkout. Discount coupon valid on non-subscription purchase only. One use per customer. Like my voice right there?
You were just born to do that.
I got to see a Big Dave ad read in person. That was worth the trip alone right here.
It's pretty special, right, Sean?
It's literally
pretty special stuff.
Buying tickets to see Jordan. You know?
Oh, stop this. Stop this.
It's goated.
What was your favorite ad to read back in the day, Sean, when you and Cody were doing Locked On?
We did a lot of. We didn't really have as many ads as they did by the time you guys were doing it. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of SeatGeek.
Oh yes, I remember.
That was like the early staple. We did a lot of Mack Weldon, the underwear and like men's essentials company, which I actually liked that because they sent us some free stuff and I got like addicted to it. And now I have like a ton of, but I have a ton of not just underwear, but like I have like jackets and, others. Like I have a ton of Mack Weldon stuff now that I've bought because of
you got all the swag.
Right, because of the ad. So like the ad read stuff, I was really hoping that they would give us one of the the Casper mattresses so that I would get a free mattress out of it, but I don't think it ever got to that point. That, our ad sales situation was a lot less than what the Locked On Network became after we left.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Rock Auto, by the way.
Oh, so much money saving on car parts.
Oh, man.
Gio in the comments saying, Jimmy Buckets is Mr. Playoffs. Big old grinning emoji. Thank you for that transition, Gio, because that's what we're talking about next. So,
wait, actually, can I interject? I saw a good one Joey had up there from JR's about the Lowry pick and explaining that. And I think correct. Sean is a great person to talk about that.
Absolutely right.
Because it is owed from the Blazers.
Absolutely right.
Lowry Markkanen, is that what we're
in the sign and trade? The pick that's eventually Blazers coming here from Portland via the Lowry sign and trade.
I got you. Yeah.
So not coming this year because it's lottery protected.
But I think what you were talking about in terms of the Blazers really being all in on the Dame experience, the Dame era, not blowing it up, that bodes well for the Bulls in terms of that pick conveying because it's protected through the lottery until 2028, I believe.
Absolutely. No, I think that does make it work well for the Blazers or for the Bulls because I can tell you, the West is tough and it's going to be even tougher next year because, you're going to have Denver with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter theoretically coming back healthy. You're going to have the Clippers back in the mix with Kawhi. So there's no guarantee that Portland makes the playoffs next year with a healthy Dame, but everybody involved in, whether it be Dame or Chauncey or Joe Cronin, who's now the general manager as of last week, everybody has consistently said this is not going to be a multi-year rebuild. This year, Dame has had this ab thing that's been bothering him for several years. The season started to go sideways, and so they were like, let's just shut it down. You know what they basically did? They basically did what the Warriors did with Steph a couple of years ago when he broke his hand. And they said, you know what, don't even worry about coming back. We're going to be bad for 1 year and get a good draft pick and then try to get back in the mix.
Take Wiseman.
That's what Portland is doing. They are planning on making the playoffs next year or trying to make the playoffs next year. And if that goes well, then the Bulls are in a good position to get that pick. And I actually think from the Bulls' standpoint, it worked out better that they may get that pick next year than if they had gotten it this year.
Because they have their own this year.
Well, they have their own pick this year, and they have a bunch of picks, future picks, if they owe, whether, to Orlando in the Vooch trade or to San Antonio in the DeMar trade or to other stuff. Having, you want to have like multiple years in a row where you have at least one pick instead of having two picks in the same year, because especially for a team like the Bulls that's very much trying to win now, you don't want to draft two guys in the first round and now you have to find minutes to plug them in and or else have them sitting on the bench. Like I think bringing in one, rookie and then, having another pick the next year, which you can either then, also having picks multiple years in a row means you can trade one of them if another win now move comes along. So I think both Portland and Chicago would be very happy if Portland conveyed that pick next year.
How much did you laugh when you saw the pick that Portland got from the Bulls? turned out to be the number 7 pick in the actual draft.
Well, we want to add to the C-Red Fred counter. How does that add to the prophecy? 7 straight 7th picks, 7 straight years of moving the goalposts on the predictions, and now the number 7 pick.
Oh, did you miss it, Sean? The Bulls actually won the NBA title in 2020. You must have missed that.
But as far as the pick moving down, they were slotted at 6. They had the 6th best odds of the pick. Obviously, it's not what you want for them to fall back to 7. I don't believe they're going to keep the pick. I think they're going to trade. I don't know who for. I don't know. I don't think it'll be for Jeremy Grant because I don't think it's even going to take that. But it could be a situation. I mentioned earlier that DeAndre Ayton is somebody that they're interested in. I could see a situation where with that 7th pick, they take whoever Phoenix likes, and then they do a sign and trade once free agency hits with Nurkic and Ayton for like a double sign and trade type of situation for Nurkic plus whoever they take with that pick, which would be whoever Phoenix told them to take, or maybe like Detroit or like Toronto decides to trade OG Anunoby and like a top 10 pick is what gets it done there. Like, I think it's more likely than not that Portland does not end up taking a player and keeping the player with that pick, especially because their goal right now is to get back to being competitive while Dame is still
using that in the package to get some more ready-made talent.
Which, again, helps the Bulls' odds of that conveying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that. So there is the down low on what exactly is going on with that Lowry pick.
Good question.
Or pick coming our way from Lowry's trade. All right. Now, let's talk about our pal, Jimmy Buckets. Will, I saw you had a tweet last night that was just Jimmy and then a heart emoji, and that was it. And I think that was very, succinctly and beautifully put for a lot of Jimmy stands out there in Bulls Nation last night who were watching that game and saying, I know we should never have traded Jimmy. Jimmy, I miss you so much, Jimmy.
That's how it sounded.
That's how they sound in my head.
That's definitely how I sound. I'll say this, though, it would have been great to keep Jimmy. He's a star. He's fantastic, and he's obviously now carried the Heat to the Eastern Conference Finals twice and gone to the Finals once.
Yeah.
The thing is, the Bulls were never going to build around Jimmy in the way the Heat did, where you're not hitting on the 13th pick in Hero or Bam.
Right.
Correct.
And you don't have the ability to develop undrafted guys and Max Strus and Gabe Vincent and, Division III players and all this stuff. The Bulls just were never going to be able to do that. So I think that is the context that I always have to remind myself.
Yeah.
Because I do love Jimmy, and I do wish the Bulls still had him, but wish him the best. And I do think this year could be a real chance for him to win a title.
They got a great chance, man.
That's the part that I think has always been tough to articulate from my perspective, which is I was fine with the Jimmy trade when it happened, and at the end of the day, fast forwarding to now, would they have been better off keeping him this whole time? Maybe, maybe not. Hard to tell. It wasn't Jimmy's fault that his bosses couldn't build a better team around him. But that doesn't mean it wasn't the right call to move on, because if you're a Bulls fan sitting there watching the history of this front office try to build winners and then watch them say, we're going to get younger and more athletic building around Jimmy, and then they go out and they sign Rondo and Wade, who are collectively 95 years old after saying younger and more athletic. What person in their right mind would have any faith in them actually building a winner around Jimmy? It wasn't necessarily just having doubts in Jimmy being the best piece on a championship team. It was way more so about having doubts about the competency of the people running the organization and making decisions about roster construction. That's why I was fine with it at the time, because I was like, this team ain't going anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
So may as well just start over now while we wait out the rest of LeBron's prime reigning over the East.
But I think it was more for me, one of the frustrating parts was that I think they were just terrified to give him the Supermax.
Yes.
They didn't want to do that. And I think at this point, he's completed what would have been that contract and clearly worth every penny of that. So that was frustrating. I think what they got back, obviously Zach has turned out to be even better, way better than I thought he would be. But Chris Dunn, he's been on the Blazers a little bit, but hardly in the league right now.
Did you see what Chris Dunn done tonight?
Lowry's obviously not on the Bulls anymore. If you are going to trade a star player in his prime, you better get somebody or some assets back. And obviously, Zach is kind of saving that by the hair on his chin. But it's, it was a decision they made, and now they're living with it. But you always also wonder about what would have happened if they had the I don't know if courage is the right word or the one I want to use, but if they were able to build around him the way that it seemed like they should have.
Well, it's either that or it's a brain or it's a heart. It's one of those three.
It's not even just that they weren't able to build around Jimmy. It's that they didn't try. They trade Derek on draft night in 2016 or the night before the draft. That night, the next night on draft night, they came very, very close to trading Jimmy to the Celtics. And that trade would have been Jay Crowder and the number 3 pick, which
because they wanted to take Chris Dunn.
Because they wanted to take Chris Dunn because they thought Chris Dunn was the next Dwayne Wade. That was the and even like when they did do the Jimmy trade a year later, which is
hilarious, by the way.
When they did the Jimmy trade a year later, like they were happy to get LaVine, and they basically took Markkanen because he was number 7 on all the mock drafts, and they hadn't scouted anybody that high, so they just kind of took whatever the consensus was. But to them at the time, Chris Dunn was the prize of that trade.
That is true.
But just the way that they handled that whole situation, they trade Derek. They say, we want to get younger and more athletic. I understood the Rondo thing at the time because if they decided not to trade Jimmy, they needed a veteran point guard, and he was the best guy out there.
Correct.
But then they basically also signed Wade just because he was a big name and he was local and he was going to sell tickets, and it was not a basketball decision. It was a marketing decision. Mm-hmm. And then when that didn't work out, which anybody could have told you wasn't going to work out, they basically just threw their hands up and were like, well, I guess nobody can build around Jimmy Butler, so let's just trade him for whatever we can get him for. And so that's just kind of how that whole thing unfolded from Jimmy has been incredible in Miami. And honestly, he was really good in Philly and in Minnesota. He got Minnesota to the playoffs for the first time in, 14 years at the time.
Mm-hmm. It was a while.
And then he fit in great with, by the way, it turns out in retrospect, they probably should have picked him over Ben Simmons in Philadelphia like Joe Embiid wanted.
What he was saying walking to the tunnel the other night, like Tobias Harris over me?
Well, they really picked Al Horford over him.
Yeah, I don't think that's
not
what
Tobias
happened,
Harris.
Jimmy. But okay.
But
he needed the motivation.
The point being, Jimmy is in
such
the perfect spot in Miami
because
everybody, like the Riley Spoelstra, Udonis Haslem,
be a tool.
Everybody's as much of a psycho as he is, as far as being all about just working and like the insane workouts and just the insane culture that they have. Like everybody, it's like the most perfect match, and even like stuff like that. I was just listening to. Bam was on Zach Lowe's podcast like maybe a month ago or something. And it was right after that whole blow up between Jimmy and Spo on the bench. And he was, Zach was asking Bam about it, and Bam said, this just happens all the time, and we have a strong enough culture that we can, deal with that. We can just, it doesn't turn into a thing that lingers, and we just, everybody says what they had to say, and we just kind of get on with it. The Bulls never had that. They would, like, everybody, whether it be in management, coaching, certain players, whatever, they would all take that stuff so personally that Jimmy, like, when Jimmy came out and said that during the first Hoiberg year, he came out and said that Fred needed to coach them harder, like, Fred would, I think Fred didn't really take it that personally because, I think Fred kind of realized, he's probably right about that, and Fred just didn't have the personality to do that. But management was not happy about that, even though Jimmy was probably right about it, and they just didn't know how to take any kind of criticism from any player about anything. And I think that Jimmy would not be doing what he's doing in Miami right now if he had stayed in Chicago, because I don't think organizationally and culturally and structurally they had what he needed and the type of setup that he needed in order to get to the level that he's gotten to.
So you're saying he needed to go through that learning process of becoming good friends with Dwayne Wade and Mark Wahlberg and getting a head so big that it can't fit through the
and Antonio Brown.
So what's really funny about that, and this is a point that I've made recently, I think that you talk about him becoming tight with Wade and that kind of leading to what it ended up leading to. I think this DeMar signing has been what the Bulls thought the Wade signing was going to be.
It's a great point.
Because when they signed Wade, obviously part of it was a marketing thing because he's a local guy and they thought that, this is a Hall of Famer, he'll sell tickets. But part of it was they thought, we have this guy that's won championships and is one of the best players of his generation. He's going to bring some credibility to the organization and change the culture. And instead what happened was Dwayne and Jimmy got really tight with each other, and Dwayne started getting in Jimmy's ear about like, this isn't a good organization. None of this stuff would ever fly in Miami. And then 2 years later, Jimmy ends up in Miami.
Yeah.
Whereas DeMar gets here, and from everything we understand, whether it was, going to Io's college jersey retirement or him saying at exit interviews that he wants to fly Pat Williams out to work out with him in the summer, it seems like he's really done what they thought Wade was going to do and actually embrace, being the veteran presence and being the culture changer and being the locker room guy.
All the young Bulls on that team were like, when that that one big locker room blow up happened. I think it was after they coughed up a lead and lost late to the Hawks and whatever.
Oh, you're talking about my year, the Rondo.
Right, yeah.
Rondo was the guy that the young guys rallied around. He was the one.
Rondo stood up for the young guys because the young guys were saying, Wade, you're sitting here yelling at us in the locker room after a loss saying, how dare you do this and you do that and you haven't earned this. Meanwhile, Wade was skipping out on every other practice.
Well, so I vividly remember.
F that. F you, D-Wade.
Just
for the record, F you, D-Wade.
I love you, D-Wade.
I vividly remember being in the locker room that night, and everybody was like, they were all sort of shell-shocked by being, having just given up that 10-point lead in 3 minutes to the Hawks or whatever. And, everybody was kind of in their, at their lockers changing. Jimmy and Dwayne come out of the shower together, like kind of whispering in each other's ears. And then we go to Dwayne, and Dwayne says stuff about like, oh, the young guys need to want it more, whatever he said. And then we go to Jimmy, and Jimmy says the exact same. Clearly, they had been like coordinating,
right? Yeah,
and like the stuff. I forget who it was. It was either like Denzel Valentine or Paul Zipser who like took the last shot, and Dwayne was talking about like those guys need to understand that like the certain people. He was like basically mad that like Paul Zipser was taking that shot instead of him, and it's like Paul Zipser is not the reason they lost the game. And then Rondo the next day put out the Instagram post,
the My Vets.
Yes, the My Vets, the picture that was like him and KG and Paul Pierce, and from then on, like that locker room became Jimmy and Dwayne versus Rondo and the young guys. And Rondo actually kind of changed his entire perception around the league at that point, because going into that, like he had been in, everything that happened in Dallas that was like a complete disaster. And then he was like in Sacramento and that team wasn't very good. And then when he got benched, early on in that Bulls season, like he basically just got benched for Michael Carter-Williams and Jarian Grant. Like,
and I remember somebody on y'all's beat asked him, like, "Can you explain to us why you're not playing?" And Rondo was like, "No, I can't."
but I think basically at that point he kind of had his moment of either I buy in and like be willing to like come off the bench and be a veteran leader and embrace being kind of this mentor, or I'm going to be out of the league in a year.
Yeah,
and I think at that point he turned around and. From then on, especially with the way like he had all those guys' backs after that Jimmy and Dwayne blow up, all of those young guys like Bobby and Denzel and all those guys all swore by him, and they all like talked about how he was one of the best teammates that they ever had. And then you go, he did the same thing. And I covered, the next year I was in Portland when they got swept by New Orleans in the first round. Rondo was on that. That was the one year that like Anthony Davis was like in the playoffs and like won a series. Rondo was huge in that series too, and that's where sort of the playoff Rondo thing came from. But he was sort of what DeMar is now as far as like the locker room presence, but it has a lot more credibility when it's somebody who's like a
actually good.
All-star, all-NBA level guy than when it's like a 35-year-old Rajon Rondo who has well past, his best years.
2-0 in the playoffs.
I was going to say, it's still good. Rondo is the reason that they won those first two games.
He did. He had those young guys playing great, especially Bobby
Rondo
Portis.
goes down, and then it's Jimmy and Wade. It's like, okay, Jimmy and Wade, you got a 2-0 lead after winning the first two games on the road in this series.
One game.
Give me something? Anything? Bueller? Wade? Butler? No? Cool.
And they still almost won that third game.
Yeah.
That third game they were starting. I forget whether it was like Isaiah Cannon or
it
was Isaiah Cannon that they were which and I like, and he was starting, and they still like they had like a 10-point lead at halftime. And I remember I was saying to a buddy of mine who covers the Celtics and was in town for that series, at halftime we were both looking at each other like this series is over.
Yeah.
Because Rondo went down and it didn't even matter, and then the Bulls just completely fell apart after that.
Yeah. Absolutely true.
So Joey, throw that up what Butler did last night, and then we'll talk quickly about what we think the rest of the series is going to be. Look at that. In case you missed it, 41 on 12-19, that should say 17 of 18 from the free throw line.
17-18 on that
I'll
one,
forgive
Joey.
you for that, Joey. 9 boards, 5 assists, 4 steals, 3 blocks, and like a couple of other things that I saw going around NBA Twitter last night, as far as in good company kind of stuff. Shooting, scoring 40 on 60% or better in the playoff games, like him, LeBron, and like 2 other players who have done that 5 or more times.
Right.
Just like Wilt and like,
whenever one of those lists happens, it's always, not only is Wilt always on it, but Wilt is always on it like 6 times.
Right. Exactly.
So how do you guys see the rest of the series panning out? Obviously, big question mark. Can Horford come back from protocols in time for game 2? What's going on with Marcus Smart? We were talking about this yesterday. I still think that the Celtics are the better, deeper team between these two, and I picked them to win this series. We all picked them to win this series. Does that change in your mind after watching game 1?
Well, I think we talked about this yesterday in terms of the Celtics' recipe for being as good as they are is they've got the best player in most of these series. Obviously not Giannis or KD, but like Tatum has proven that he can be the guy. And then you also have a very deep roster of like role players that compete at a super high level on both sides. And last night they're missing 2 starters. And so the depth kind of dries up. And then you have Jimmy becoming the best player on the floor. So I thought they still had a chance to win that game after I heard that Smart and Horford were out. I think they still win the series. But if the recipe that I've just described is no longer there, it becomes a much harder series.
Yeah.
Where the Heat have, a pretty deep team. They could potentially have the best player. I mean, Jimmy's averaging 29.8 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 2.5 steals, a block, on 53.5% shooting from the field, 35% from 3, and 83% from the line on 8.7 attempts per game. In the playoffs, he's had 40-point games in the playoffs so far. He is
awesome.
That's not bad.
He's having just an insane postseason run.
No,
so if he continues to do this and the Celtics continue to not have their depth or their depth gets outplayed, then yeah, I mean, this could be a series. But I still think I'm reserving. I mean, it's the Heat's home game. Like you just want to take one or you just want to protect home court, whatever. There's still a lot of time in the series, but very impressive win last night.
Yeah, extremely impressive. But it kind of went as we kind of said. Like we thought game 1 was going to go to the Heat. We thought that they were going to do it, basically coming off an epic series, an epic 7-game series against the defending champs, where they had to fight, scratch, and claw that entire series just to get those wins. I didn't see how they were going to be able to get it together to beat the Heat, but it seemed like in the first half they had found something. But the Heat are doing things that, championship teams do. That means when they get to that third quarter, it's time to turn it on. And they got to that third quarter, and I mean, they turned it on.
Yeah, they don't beat themselves.
Right, correct.
And they don't end games early.
Right, exactly.
They were down 12 in the first half at one point. Like they're not gonna quit.
No, they regroup, and shout out to Eric Spoelstra for that as well. Incredible coach, man. One of the best in the league, without a doubt. He's been great. So, and if Jimmy is gonna hit the shots I saw him hitting,
he was so good.
Come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was hitting shots. And I'm like, wait a minute. I ain't never seen him hit that. The fadeaway turnaround on Tatum?
Yeah, turn around, step
Come
backs.
on, dog. Like, I was like, he's hitting that?
He was hitting corner threes.
Yeah.
Like,
nothing you can say.
He was hitting contested corner threes.
He was the two-way guy, you know what I'm saying, that everybody talked about. Like, that one series where he got the steal, went in, got the layup, came back, got another steal, and went in, got the two-handed dunk. That was it right there. That just shows you he put a stamp on that game, man. So, no, he was on fire. I would never take nothing away from that. That dude was incredible that game. It went like I thought it would go. I didn't think Jimmy was going to go 40 on him and play like that, but I thought that they would win that game, and I think the Celtics will come back a little more ready in game 2. Plus, and you said 2 starters.
Probably
one of those starters is the defensive player of the year. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to impact you as well. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when he gets back because I know Smart's not going to sit out game 2. He's too insane. You know what I'm saying? Not to sit out game 2.
You end up playing Nesmith heavy minutes. Like Pritchard had really big moments in game 7 against the Bucks, but he's not somebody who's going to play 20 minutes a night. Like the pecking order. Yeah.
Trademark.
As we talk about, that really matters there when it's not that just the starters' minutes are gone. It's who has to step up and how that compares to the other team.
Yeah.
What do you think, John?
I still lean towards Boston winning the series. I mean, I was not surprised at all that Miami won that game. As soon as I heard that Smart and Horford were going to be out, I kind of figured Miami was going to win. But the Celtics were still they still showed up for that game. I think Jaylen Brown missed a bunch of shots. I think that's the worst game you're going to get from Jaylen Brown in the playoffs. And I think that
Tatum didn't shoot great either. I think he was 2 of 9 from downtown.
Right. Having those two guys, if one of those guys has a good shooting night, they probably either win that game or it's closer than it was.
Right.
Having those two guys and I think it's actually probably better for them that the 2 stars having a bad game the same night also was the game where 2 of their other best players were out anyway, and so it's just get all of the bad stuff out of the way in one game. I still think the Celtics are better. The Celtics are deeper. Agreed. And I still have the same concern that I've had with Miami during the whole playoffs, which is that outside of Jimmy, who is incredible, as we've talked about, and you kind of know what you're going to get from him on a night-to-night basis, maybe you're going to get a good Bam game one night. Maybe you're going to get a good Tyler Hero game one night. Maybe you're going to get, maybe Kyle Lowry comes back at some point in the series and is impactful. But you don't have a second, like this is definitely the second guy that's going to be able, like if Jimmy doesn't have it or Jimmy runs out of gas, this is the guy that they're going to be able to lean on. They don't have that to the degree that the Celtics do, where like if Jalen's having a bad night, then usually Tatum is going to be able to show up, or vice versa, or like Grant Williams is randomly going to hit 7 threes like he did against the Bucks in Game 7.
Horford has a monster game.
Yeah.
You know,
I still lean towards
even Smart
Boston.
has monster offensive games in addition to his defensive contributions. So Charlie in the comments also pointing out that Tatum had 6 turnovers in a single quarter. He had 7 for the game. You're probably not going to see that bad of a Tatum ball handling game.
Plus Jimmy blocking his threes. You know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy. Come on, like you don't see that often.
All right, so with our remaining time, let's shift over to the West. But before that, Big Dave, you want to give one more quick shout out to our friends at PointsBet.
Gotta hand it to them.
I saw somebody in the comments earlier after I did PointsBet saying betting is for losers. No, you know what? It's not. It's for winners.
No, it's for winners, man.
PointsBet is for winners.
And it's for you people out there because you enjoy what we do here at CHGO.
That's right.
And if you want to help us out and continue to grow what we do, just download that PointsBet app and use that code CHGO when you sign up, because not only are you getting those two risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, guess what you're going to get? Guess. Take a pause. Guess. You're going to receive that free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of that awesome web content, and you'll even get a free t-shirt of your choice from that CHGO locker. And all the people here in this beautiful state of Illinois, in this wonderful city of Chicago, where it is fat man weather outside. It is fat man summer going on outside, and I love it. Somebody in the comments said, how come Dave is the only one with shorts and no jacket on? Because this is my summer, baby. That's why. I'm feeling good.
Full summer.
This is my time to shine. You can download that PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish and do it all from your phone. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Because once the game starts, you don't just bet. Millennium, tell them what they do.
2 in 1 show?
Yes, sir.
You live your bet life.
Come on, Joey.
I want you to deal with your problems by becoming rich.
Joey feels like he lives by that.
I feel like I say Joey is just on his game every single episode.
He's on it, man.
He's always on his game. He's just great.
He did have a typo in Jimmy's stat line.
I love Matt.
Calling that out.
I love Matt. Matt had to toss it, man. I love Matt. He ain't letting you slide with nothing.
Did you mistranscribe that, or was it my typo?
No, I did. You have to tell him what I'm saying, but I did. I saw there was a 1 that was floating in Photoshop. Where did that come from?
He said he saw there was a 1 floating in Photoshop.
And
he deleted it.
I did fix it. I put it back on the screen.
But he fixed it.
Yeah.
Nobody gave him any credit for
We're not going to give you credit for fixing it. No, what are you talking about?
Joey's such a talented producer.
Yes.
He's a talented
He does
Photoshop
everything.
artist.
The bar
He's
is
a talented
really high.
everything.
Yeah.
And he works his butt off here, and everybody loves and respects and appreciates him
Sure.
for it, which we all should. I'm
Absolutely.
just saying, I got to knock him down a peg or two every once in a while.
I have no problem with you doing that either, Matthew. I'm right here to knock that peg with you, sir.
I love you, Joey.
You do a great job, sir. You do a great job.
All right, guys.
All-star pitcher.
West Finals.
Yes.
Start tonight. Warriors, Mavs.
Ooh.
So I had y'all throw in your picks for this series, and I love that Sean was like, all right, give me a while. I'll send it to you later tonight. And then like a couple hours later, you're like, F it. And you said Mavs in 6. I love this so much, Sean. Tell me why you're rolling with the Mavs in 6. Please. Joey, you want to throw those predictions up there?
Let me guess. 2 words.
Oh, look at the photo,
I'm gonna
baby.
guess. Like, so what are the 2 words you think?
Luka
Doncic.
Luka
Jason Kidd.
Wow, I am the only one that picks.
Look at that. Look at that.
I'll explain mine in a minute. Go ahead.
I think that, I mean, obviously, all respect to what Golden State has done, and the Steph being one of the greatest players of all time. In 2022, the best player in this series is Luka Doncic.
Correct.
And he was so good in that Phoenix series, and that was a series nobody expected them to win. And I just think they're the type of personnel that they have around Luka. Like, on paper, you would think it's just like, oh, this is just Luka and some role players. How do they get this far? But like, Dorian Finney-Smith is a guy you can switch on to different guys. And I also think that, like, as much as like early on in the Phoenix series, there was this whole storyline about them targeting Luka defensively, and so what are they going to be able to do with Luka against this Warriors offense? you can put Luka defensively on Draymond because Draymond is really not doing much with the ball at this point.
That's a great point.
Steph is still great. Steph is not the same guy that he was 2 or 3 years ago. Clay has definitely been up and down since the injury.
True.
They lost Gary Payton to the elbow injury in the last series. That's one of their, he would have been one of the best guys to put on Luka defensively.
No question.
I just kind of feel like this Mavs team is like perfectly suited to win this series. I don't know.
Well, so my thing was, and I said go to State in 7. And the reason I said that was because I have picked against the Mavs every single series so far. And my man John Sabine, who I love dearly, I want his team to go to the finals. So I said, you know what? Let me continue doing this. Let me continue picking against the Mavs to see if they go ahead and get this victory as well. So I'm rooting for the Mavs. I want them to win, but I'm going to pick Golden State because I want the Mavs to win.
Did you pick against them round 1 against Utah?
I did. I picked Utah. I sure did.
From a petty standpoint, Miami Dallas 3 in the finals would be pretty fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think
what we're about to get now is a potential revenge of the We Believe Warriors from all the way back in 07.
Oh my goodness.
Golden State Dallas. That was a number 1 seed MVP Dirk Mavs team.
Ooh, you're right.
That lost the 1-8 series.
I was just gonna say any of these like finals combinations would be great series. For me, I'm definitely biased towards the Warriors. I also think we're getting a little recency bias in favor of Luka. Like obviously he's incredible, but I just think the Warriors are really, really good. They also like have done this before in terms of obviously winning the championship, but they've like dealt with LeBron. Okay.
They did.
Like, they'll figure out Luka. I think the Mavs have been incredible. Like everybody knows I'm the biggest Luka guy there is. Except for maybe Sabine.
Come on, there it is.
I don't know, man. I'm a big Luka guy. But anyway.
No, bro. John was just arguing with me because I told him Luka was not Luke Skywalker. He was Anakin. And John no, he is Golden Boy. He is Skywalker.
Isn't Anakin
That's who he
a better
is.
Option?
No, that's what I keep telling him. He's a goon. I was like, bro, he's a goon, man. He's Anakin, bro.
I like the
he's
Anakin.
wiping people out. He's
Anakin
taking out the orphanage. Like, that's what he does, man. Like, Luka's cold-blooded.
But I
ain't
guess
fooled by the smile.
my last thing is I think the Warriors were kind of just messing around in the last series. After Ja went out, it was like, we know we're going to win, so let's just like mess around. I think they're still, when they want to get really locked in, they can. And I think their ability to move, like you're saying, Draymond, I think he's still a very tough cover because even if he's not like putting pressure on the basket to score, he's moving around and he's making plays as a passer. They don't really have any like areas to exploit for the Mavs. So I think it's going to be a really good series. I would not be surprised if the Mavs won at all, but I'm still, and the reason I picked 6 is because I think if it gets to Game 7, I probably lean towards Mavs. So I think it's going to be a great series.
Great series, man.
Great series.
Yeah, I mean, I want Warriors in 7 mostly just because I'm going to lean a little bit on that championship experience and that, I believe in Luka. It is Will, Brunson, and/or Dinwiddie, and/or, D.F. Smith. Enough of Luka's help show up to win 4 games. That's the part that I'm wondering. And as much as we got to credit Luka and his role guys for stepping up in that, comeback in the Phoenix series, I also wonder how much of that was the Suns choking like dogs. Like, I know, like, we keep getting word after word about this player was playing hurt and this player was battling an injury. Did you guys see this quote from Campaign?
Why would I see a quote from Campaign?
Dude,
I don't need.
Why would I see a quote from
because
Campaign?
it's hilarious. And shout out to Asis Do. Handle at Vidic Zan on Twitter, who just hit me in my DMs with this earlier today. Bulls fan from Slovenia, so shout out to him. Who watches the show. This is Campaign. Congrats to the Mavs, but we played injured and we never told anyone. Book was battling a left hamstring strain. CP3 had a quad injury. Ayton dealing with a torn thumb since Game 1, and I've been experiencing back soreness. It's not a fair series.
Wait.
I don't. Okay.
You're putting himself in that.
Right, you know what I'm saying, Sean?
So Cam throwing himself in there at the end. So all of our best players are hurt.
That's like
back soreness.
That's like a Joel Embiid level of like excuse making after the fact. Like,
come on,
so
man.
I have not verified that quote from anywhere. It just got sent to me in my.
I had a
I hope that's not a situation where there's an account that tweets a lot of fake quotes. That,
right, yeah. I mean...
I hope that's not true.
But the fact that I read that was like, I could totally believe Campaign saying that because Campaign is very self-important.
No, that's very.
I feel like
Anthony
I would have seen
Davis.
that before now if they
Right,
had
Right?
actually.
Because I was like, I haven't seen that quote come out anywhere else. But maybe it's because no one else felt like running a Campaign quote because no one cares what Campaign has to say. Shout out Cam.
Shout out Jason Kidd,
But
too.
again,
He's
like,
coaching his ass off.
I just, part of that
Yes.
series was like, wow, is this when Luka and the Mavs finally put it together? And part of it was me being like, dude, this Suns team won 64 games.
Yeah.
And this is how they go out. But they also, people question all season long whether or not their shot profile was sustainable, them being Phoenix. A team that didn't shoot a lot of threes, didn't make a lot of threes, and relied heavily on mid-range stuff with Book and with CP3. And maybe it finally caught up with them. I would love to see the Mavs somehow find a way to win this series.
Yeah.
I just am rolling championship experience. If they got Steph, Dre, and Clay all playing like Steph, Dre, and Clay, I've been saying all season long, give me that team because they've won 3 chips. And then the final weighing factor is I picked Warriors to get to the finals when the playoffs started.
There it is.
I love being right.
Yes, he does.
I'm rolling with the Warriors.
You love being right.
You didn't know that about him. I don't know if you knew that.
Not a lot of people know that.
Completely out of character, Sean. It's not a thing of his at all.
But again, I would be happy for our pal John.
I would
if
be
the Mavs
so
found a
happy
way
for
to win.
John, man. Honestly, I would be ecstatic for
Mostly,
him.
I also picked 7. Just give me 7 games of this series.
Yeah, any
Please.
series. Yeah.
Give me 7 more games of every series.
Yes, anyone they want to give it to me, and I will take those 7 games. And
Give me 21 more
And the
basketball
NBA
games.
is behind the NHL right now in Game 7s, and the NHL is a round behind the NBA as far as their playoffs.
Interesting.
They had so many Game 7s in round 1 in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Oh, man.
I feel like we
21
NBA fans
more
deserve
basketball
more.
games.
21 more basketball games. Yes, what he said. Give me more.
Only 7 more, according to Jimmy Buckets. He keeps tweeting one, checking one win off at a time, tweeting, Instagram, whatever. Just counting down the wins, starting from 16 down to 0.
Must be nice. Must be nice, Jimmy.
Oh, well, everybody enjoy Game 1 of Warriors Mavs. I believe it's 8 o'clock Central tip-off tonight.
Okay.
They're playing out there on the West Coast.
Too late.
So you got plenty of time.
Do not
Make
like.
yourself a nice meal and get ready
Welcome
for
home.
Game 1. Everyone, one more big thank you and round of applause to Sean Highkin, our guest for the day, hanging out with us.
Thanks for
There he
joining
is.
us, my man.
This was awesome, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you,
Dude,
man.
you're welcome anytime.
Yes,
Come
you
back
are.
soon. Enjoy your time in Chicago while you're here. Everybody follow Sean for his great NBA takes and all of his great writing at Highkin on Twitter. Highkin.
There it is.
Boom.
You got it.
Will is at Won't Gottlieb. Dave's at Pow, BAWS Sports. I'm Bulls_Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. We're back tomorrow with another fresh episode in studio. 3 o'clock Chicago time. Throwing a few more greats around. I think we're going to do Javante and DJJ tomorrow.
Oh,
We're getting close to the end of the greats.
You're getting to the 2 guys in 1 episode.
Bingo.
portion of the roster.
Starting tomorrow,
Yeah.
we're getting to 2 guys per episode.
Oh,
Done
man.
with this.
And then some guys might not even get an episode. We'll see. I know this guy wants to talk about Matty Legend for an hour. So.
I think the world wants to talk about Matty Legend for an hour, but we'll be ready. Be ready, baby.
So have a great night, Bulls Nation. Appreciate y'all, as always, for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up button underneath the video if you like today's episode. It helps us out a lot. Subscribe to the CHGO Sports channel on YouTube if you aren't already. Until tomorrow, see you, Red. Be good.